So now I'd like to introduce Andrea HUBIN and Karin SCHNEIDER. Both of them are lecturers at the University of Applied Arts. Andrea HUBIN is an art historian and educator. Currently, she works as dramatic advisor in the Kunsthalle Wien. Since 1999, she has developed projects in the field of art education and experimental interaction with audience. Karin SCHNEIDER is a historian and educator. She has worked at the Academy of Fine Arts, the Research Association Science Communication Research and the Museum of Modern Art Vienna. Welcome.
Yes, hello. When seeing the workshops, the design workshops now before, and coming from a rather similar praxis and remembering the enjoyment of this doing, actually I'm rather sad that we will give now a more theoretical presentation, as we would like to draw the scenario in which the artist as educator is positioned today. But at least we will start with a short video clip, just some seconds, but I think it's would be nice to have it.
I want to talk about creativity. My contention is that creativity now is as important in education as literacy, and we should treat it with the same status.
So actually this was it already. We wanted to show you the applause that Ken Robinson is getting for the statement that creativity at the moment is as important as teaching literacy in education environments. And I think this is basically the cornerstones of the scenario that we are trying to draw now. School kills creativity. This is quite a widely held belief, and I guess also in this room many of you would agree, or some of you would agree, even though you would argue this and that, and in how far, and that not all types, and historical, and so on. So there are many arguments to counter that, but still it's a widely held belief. And it is, of course, a critical perspective to say that. But there I have to stop very shortly for the question, could we imagine today a standpoint from which, or an occasion in which, the wiping out or negation of creativity could be estimated positively? Maybe this points also to something that we cannot imagine a standpoint from which this would be possible. Okay, as a critical stance, the idea that schools kill creativity, it complains primarily the regulation and restriction of individual freedom. Freedom of expression, freedom to question the rules, freedom of shifting perspectives, freedom of taking own decisions. As the restriction is executed through formalized school curricula and authoritarian teaching methods. What comes in mind is the verdict of a so-called Verschulung. This is a German word, but it means to become more schooly, so this is a bad word, especially of higher education, represented by standardized formation cycles, more and more subdivided by degree thresholds, stress with exams that only allow one right answer, a focus on cognitive capacities, and a higher ranking of mathematical and language school subjects. Last but not least, the schooliness of schools points towards the inflexibility of educational programs to answer to individual potentials, talents, and needs. And there is, of course, a long history of pedagogical reforms to counter these critical aspects, these critical aspects. But over the past decade, the emergence of diverse public policy measures could be observed that unite forces to tackle these issues under a particularly dazzling torch, fackel, creativity. We will focus here now, or we want to focus here now on the UNESCO Road Map for Arts Education, which is one of the documents or measures in the line of this argument. It was issued in 2006 following the first UNESCO World Conference on Arts Education under the headline Building Creative Capacities for the 21st Century. And I will followingly quote extensively from it, and I will show the quotes on the PowerPoint. The UNESCO Road Map is a reference document designed to promote, as it says, a common understanding among all stakeholders of the importance of arts education and its essential role in improving the quality of education. It is followed in 2010 by the Seoul Agenda, which undermines the roadmap's goals for the development of arts education, following the conviction that, quote, arts education has an important role to play in the constructive transformation of educational systems that are struggling to meet the needs of learners in a rapidly changing world characterized by remarkable advances in technology, we heard that already, on the one hand, and intractable social and cultural injustices on the other side. Concerns 2010 range from peace, cultural diversity, intercultural understanding to, quote, arts education can make a direct contribution to resolving the social and cultural challenges facing the world today. The roadmap was conceived as a guideline, as a theoretical and practical framework, helping to advance the qualitative development and growth of arts education. The endeavor can be described as heading towards two directions. First, to improve the quality of the educational system at large, by implementing and fostering the appreciation of arts education, A, as individual study subject and learning opportunity in itself, and B, by introducing artistic and cultural dimensions in other academic disciplines and school subjects. The goal is, quote, to introduce the arts and cultural practices into learning environments, thereby following the conviction that, quote, creative and cultural development should be a basic function of all education. This doesn't go along with what I'm planning, but let's go on like this. Maybe confusion is a very important part of creativity strategies. Well, what is advocated here is a holistic approach to achieve not this, but the next thing, a balanced intellectual, emotional, and psychological development of individuals and societies. A second trajectory of the endeavor is to conceive arts education principles and practices as an instrument, quote, to resolve the social and cultural challenges facing today's world. Art education is meant to prepare grounds to, quote, ensure that the new generations of this century gain the knowledge and skills, as well as the values and attitudes, the ethical principles, and the moral directions to become responsible citizens of the world and guarantors of a sustainable future, which is actually quite a big job, I have to say, which is put on us as art educators somehow. Well, both starters of the roadmap suggest that efforts have to be made to strengthen and increase the role and impact of art education in and for specific social fields, hence diagnosing the current state as being deficient in respect to the importance ascribed to arts, culture, and creativity. In arguing that art education role in the current school system is limited, the roadmap and associate papers meet, as our experience and observation is, the assessment and self-esteem of teachers in the arts. In the line of the initially quoted belief that schools kill creativity, which is actually what was the title of the talk of Ken Robinson that I showed in the beginning, schools kill creativity, the arts and creative capacities are being seen as something that is structurally excluded, or at least marginalized in educational environments. The estimation goes that, this is a quote, but it won't show up here now, that today there exists a growing divide between cognitive and emotional processing that reflects a greater focus in learning environments on the development of cognitive skills and a lesser value placed on emotional processes. So Ken Robinson asks later in his talk, why is this so? So why, and he argues that this deficiency or this problematic is related to the founding of the public schooling system in the historic period of industrialization, thereby calling up the image of the schools as factories. But actually, Today, as we know, the economic conditions have changed fundamentally, and I want to bring for the end, or for a conclusion of my paper here, a short drawing the scenario that the economic changes are characterized by. So I have this motto here: motive here, creative industries are a contested zone in the making. One horizon of the roadmap's initiative to strengthen the role of arts and creativity in educational environments is a fundamental transformation of the economic underpinnings of current, mostly, of course, Western societies, frequently described, and also by the roadmap, as a change from industrial to post-industrial economies, or knowledge and information economies, or cognitive capitalism. These new economies are characterized by demanding and circulating a specific good crafted out of knowledge and information resources and a new agent subject, the creative worker. The typical profile of this new worker contains versatile communication skills and the talent to maintain social networks, flexibility and the ability for self-dependent decision-making and action, self-management according to changing demands, and that competitive advantage is predominantly gained from shaping an original and unique personality. Under these auspices, the whole human being is seen as a potential gold mine for adding financial and symbolic value. And here I come to the end, and then Karin will give a short outlook on the workshop or on the discussion that we will have hopefully later. This vanishing of clear distinctions between private life, in which the personality finds its retreat, its self-fulfillment, and the real for self-expression, and on the other side, a workplace characterized by estrangement, routine, and the dependency on an entrepreneur holding the means of production, point again to this specific trajectory that the transformations of society are heading towards. Again, it is creativity, and it is the artist that has provided the role model for the new working conditions and the subjectivities meeting its demands. This type is actually so pervasive and inevitable that it even has to be described as a creative imperative, an imperative to be creative. So the question would be, in how far can the artist as educator deal with this new situation in which the imperative is no more to follow the rules and to answer questions correctly, but to never leave the production line of innovation and the crafting of the original and the new. And now I would like Karin maybe to give...
I know that we are running out of time, so I do it really very briefly, because I only want to invite you to our discussion and to stress some points that we would like to discuss. But before that, I wanted to give you the keywords for this discussion. And what you see here is actually an artwork from Carla Bobadilla, who is also, I guess, in the room now, but the light is so bright that I don't... Hi. She's also a member of our group, the Another Road Map for Art Education working group in Vienna. And you see here, creativity is our hope, and we wanted to discuss with you the contradiction of this claim. Actually, also for the role of a kind of a new figure we wanted to propose to focus on, and this is the figure of artist educator. So not only as you described it before, the artist as educator or the educator as artist, but we want to suggest to discuss together if in this new environment of so-called cognitive capitalism or aesthetic capitalism, a figure like the artist educator emerge that is extremely important to deal with this contradiction of the creativity claim. So, as I got the sign already, we really have to postpone now everything to the discussion, but I hope we confused you enough that you really feel like having a good discussion.